We might see some people who are actively engaged in things like communications or public speaking, but they're probably not progressing that much. And most likely the reason is that they don't have a specific or proper feedback mechanism in place. That's why every Toastmasters meeting has a section called the evaluation round, which is meant to give feedback to all the speakers. And this entire session is spearheaded by somebody called the General Evaluator. Their main job is to moderate the evaluation session and to make sure that we are giving feedback and evaluating the meeting as a whole. So that's what we're going to discuss here today, how to effectively perform the role of a general evaluator. Hey, my name is Viddeep and I'm the founder of Frantically Speaking, and I love learning about effective communications and sharing those learnings with you so that you can level up your communications game as well. So we're going to break down this entire video into three parts. Okay, we're going to start off with what we need to do before the meeting even begins if you're nominated for the role of general evaluator, what you have to do during the meeting, and lastly, we're going to talk about a checklist which will highlight all the touch points you need to kind of include within your overall evaluation speech. So starting off with what you need to do before the meeting. There are two things here. One is to make sure you reach out to all the evaluators to get a small bit of introduction on them. The reason why we do this is because when we're actually introducing the evaluators, we need to make, instead of just like saying their name and getting them on stage, that might seem a little bland, it's good to have a little bit of an introduction, something interesting that you can tell the audience before calling them on stage. If you need any more kind of tips on introducing somebody on stage, we have written an entire article on that, how to introduce somebody and amaze your audience, which is linked down in the description below. And the second thing to do is to make sure that you reach out to the Vice President of Education and you get the entire agenda of the meeting. The reason for this is so that you're aware if there are any deviations from the regular meeting. Are there any education sessions happening, or are there any sort of different things happening that you might not be aware about? Because all those things will need to be included in your evaluation towards the end. So it's just good to know beforehand what the final agenda of the meeting looks like. Now it comes to the day of the meeting. The first thing that I want to point out here is that when you arrive in the club, try and make sure that you're sitting towards the end of the room, somewhere in the back where you have a nice view of the entire room. We mainly do this because the reason why we do this is because if we sit ahead, we are only evaluating the people who are coming on stage, whereas we need to evaluate the meeting as a whole. So sitting towards the back of the room will give you a nice bird's eye view of everything that's already going on, which will in turn help you in your final evaluation speech. Now we're going to go over what you need to say when you're called on stage. You're mostly going to be invited to speak by the Toastmaster of the day. So when you're called on, keep this order in mind. Start off by introducing yourself, then move on to introducing what a general evaluator does and why is it important. And this is mainly done for the benefit of the guests. We then move on to calling on the timer to give the timing guidelines. Now, this is specifically for the evaluation round. So if this is done before earlier in the meeting, then you can kind of skip this part. Then you move on to calling on the evaluators one by one. After all the evaluators are done, get on the tag team to give up their reports. So the timer, our counter grammarian, you call them on one by one and let them give their respective reports. And then you finally end it with your evaluation of the entire meeting. Now we're going to get into what you exactly need to say in your evaluation speech, but talking about this entire section, about the introduction, about why is GE important, calling on the evaluators, I don't want to go through the script word by word right now, but we have written down a sample script for you, which you can download in the link in the description below. It's a downloadable PDF, so you can take it for your meeting with you if you're nominated for the GE role. And it'll give you a good base to start on. You can, of course, add on things to it as well. But if this is your first time, just having an overview of the script is enough to get you started. Before we move on to the checklist of what you need to include within your speech evaluation, I want to just talk a little bit about the delivery aspect as the general evaluator. Now, there are two things to keep in mind over here. The first thing is that we need to make sure that we need to make sure we're following a certain method of giving out an evaluation. Now, the base technique that at least I was taught in the clubs that I was a part of was the sandwich method, which is essentially you start off with a commendation or a compliment, then you move on to a recommendation, and then you end it off with a compliment. There's a very simple way of giving feedback or evaluation or an evaluation, not just in Toastmasters, but almost anywhere in general. And it works well most of the times. Of course, this is not the only way you can give feedback. I feel there are more effective methods of giving feedback and criticism. But if you've not taken up this role before, or if this is one of your first few times giving an evaluation, this is a good place to start. And the second thing to keep in mind is that throughout the meeting, you might have taken down some notes of your evaluation. So when you're going on for your speech, don't feel the need to really memorize the entire evaluation speech, or even the script for that matter. I've seen people do that. They write down their entire evaluation word for word and they try to memorize it. And because there's such little time to actually do that, they might end up forgetting some points or they might fumble a lot and the evaluation round just doesn't go that smoothly. So don't be afraid to really carry on your notes. Of course, don't read from them, use them more as a reference guide. But it's not, as the GE, you're not really there to perform and give like a proper speech. You're there to do the evaluation of the meeting. Of course, if you can add elements of an actual speech within your evaluation, that's great, but it's not really required. So carry your notes on stage if needed, and you can reference them as and when you're speaking so that you're making sure you're not missing out on any relevant points. And lastly, we're going to talk about a little checklist you can keep in your mind to make sure you're touching the important points in your evaluation speech. So there are two things to keep in mind here. One is aspects of the overall meeting, and second is evaluating all the role players. When it comes to the overall meeting, we're talking about things like timing. Did the meeting start on time? Does it look like it's going to end on time? We're talking about the ambience of the meeting and of the club. Was it comfortable for the audience? Were the guests greeted properly? Just how was the entire vibe of the meeting in general? We're going to talk about things like technicalities. Was the mic loud enough? Were the speakers audible? Was the seating arrangement proper? If there was a presentation happening, were there any glitches going on over there? Just to make sure that the next time or the next week when the club meets, these little things can kind of be mitigated to have more of a smoother meeting within the club. And the second thing to keep in mind is the role players. Now, the GE does not really evaluate the prepared speakers because they already have the evaluators to do that. But you need to make sure that you're evaluating everybody else in the meeting, all the other role players. The president, the Toastmaster of the day, the table topics master, the sergeant at arms, the tag team, everyone else besides the prepared speakers need to be evaluated by you. And even over here, whenever you're giving out your feedback or evaluation, you can again go back to that sandwich method where you start off with a compliment or a commendation, followed up by a recommendation, and end it with another compliment. And that's about it. What you need to do before the meeting, during the meeting, and a small checklist to keep in mind when you're actually giving your evaluation as the general evaluator. By the way, even the entire checklist can be downloaded in a PDF document, and the link is given in the description below. Now, if you need any other help or tips when it comes to things like Toastmasters, communications, or public speaking, we have an entire website dedicated just for that. So go check out franticallyspeaking.com.